Now to our time of our open public meeting. We do have a ordinance number O-0121, adoption of the Enabling Act for the new code for Walker County, Georgia, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty providing a penalty for violations thereof, providing for the matter of amending such code, and providing for such code the ordinance shall become effect. What this is a very, very long document. It's a big old book, and what we've, they've got, there's one right here that you can see, a hard copy of. But back in 2005, the previous administration took on the project of updating the code book by taking and putting everything in a proper order in the book, what they call a recodification. The last time that had been done prior to that was 1983. So they'd gone from 83 to 2005, and once they got that project done, it was only brought the book up to mid-2002. So we've gone now about another 13 years or so without the recodification done. So also with the new Board of Commissioners and the new Enabling Act, that also needed to be incorporated into the code book. And so we've worked with a company called MuniCode that does this all over the country, working with both city and local county governments to recodify that information in the book, so ordinances that have been placed on the books by the governing authority is updated and is published so people can easily find the information. One of the great things that this does for us going forward, it will be on our website, but it will be in a searchable database. So you can keyword search if you're looking for something in particular, and it will be the latest. So going forward, anytime any board, this board or any future board makes any changes or amendments or modifications to any of the county ordinances, within just a few business days, that's updated so everybody can access the same information, the right information, and the most current information. So part of the process we have to do is make everyone aware that this is going on, make you aware that you can go to the website and look at this document, and if anybody has any questions or comments about it, and we'll take any of those here in just a moment. But this is a real positive advancement for our community, our county, because we've never had this in a searchable database. And so it will really set a higher standard for our community and get us up into the 21st century. So at this time, does anyone have any questions or comments or would like to come forward and speak on this issue or this topic? Any board member have anything they want to add to that?
No, sir.
Okay.
You got one.
Yes, sir. Come on up, please.
Was just one thing I saw at the very first. It says adopting and enabling a new code for Walker. It's not really a new code. It's really a new code or a new format. Is that not?
It's updating the format of everything that's already been approved by past. So the last time there was an ordinance update was, I believe, in December of 2020, last year. So we've not had any ordinance changes as a new board, but it captures every ordinance change back to the latest book prior to this one, which took place in 2005. It gets all that in the proper order.
Right, so why wouldn't it just be called in the title or whatever, enacting a new code book or format, not a new code, because the codes are past codes that was all, in place. So I was thinking it'd be, say new code book or new code format.
No, that's a great question. I think one reason for that is there was a lot of references into any prior ordinances that referenced sole commissioner. So now that it's a Board of Commissioner, everywhere where it said sole commissioner has been updated to say Board of Commissioners. So it truly does modify and make it new. The old code book referenced everything from the Enabling Act of 1939. And so this new code book from the Enabling Act standpoint that was passed in 2018 to go in effect January 1 of 2021 encompasses that as well. So it really does create a new code book, but there wasn't any ordinances that had any substance changes, more of a formatting, housekeeping, and proper structure.
Thank you.
Good question. Anything else? Board members have anything? Okay. All right, and we'll have another hearing on that at our next meeting in 2 weeks. So if you look at that online and have any questions or comments, we'll be doing that again next time. Okay, we do have a request from Kenneth Kleber for a rezone from C1 commercial to R2 residential for property located at 7001 North Highway 27, Rock Springs, Georgia, 30739, tax map and parcel number 0-328-1-011. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Anyone that's against this request that would like to speak first? Anyone in opposition of the Kenneth Kleber for rezone? Kibler, I'm sorry. Kibler from C1 to R2. Okay, hearing none, is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of this request? Yes, sir, come on up, please. And when you get to the podium, please state your name for the record, please.
I have to raise my hand.
No.
I'm Bobby Teams Realty. I'm actually representing Mr. Keebler on this. This is 19.33 acres right there in front of the Northwestern College. Potentially, they want to put apartments. They, on the front end, the Silver's apartment up off the bypass, they're looking at something like that, which is, you know, real nice and neat, and they will not be income or age based. So, you know, we've talked before, the guy that makes $50,000 a year and he's 40 years old, he don't have no place to go. And so hopefully this will be a big advantage, because we definitely need some more housing in the county. And even though we're doing well with the growth, we definitely need some more living quarters. So that's pretty much the end of it.
Thank you.
So,
Board members have any questions for Mr. Kelly?
if you do, don't make them hard. Y'all know I won't lie.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank y'all.
Okay, the next one is a request from Larry Bang for a rezone from the Chickamauga Battlefield Overlay District to a C1 commercial for property located at 100 Park City Road, Rossville, Georgia. Tax map and parcel number 0-210-116A. Is there anyone here that's in opposition to this rezone that would like to come forward? Yes, ma'am. I saw your hand first. If you want to come up to the podium, please. And we'll ask you to state your name for the record as well.
My name is Karen Michaels. I live at 101 Park City Road, Rossville. It's actually across the street from this particular piece of property. I think part of our concern and our question is, I understand that that's a part of Chickamauga Battlefield Corridor Overlay District. And from what I understand, it's now residential. This, Mr. Bang wishes to change it to a commercial C1 zoning. And one thing we question is, can you do that, or does that have to come through the Battlefield Overlay District? And if it is changed, will it then be commercial, be C1 zoning, but fall under their guidelines and regulations? So that's a question that we have. First of all, can it be done? And secondly, if it is done, then will it fall where, who's gonna oversee all of this?
Well, part of the county ordinance that was adopted several years ago was this overlay district. Mm-hmm. And so you can have multiple different types of zoning in the overlay district.
Correct.
So,
but if it's zoned residential now, you can change it to commercial without them doing it. The overlay district As the county commission, can you all approve the change?
Well, it says Chickamauga Battlefield, but it's not the actual park. That was just the name that was given to it, but it's
Correct.
managed by the county through the planning office.
Okay, so when we did this through the planning, they dismissed it, kind of indicating that they couldn't do anything with it. So then we wondered, well, if you all can change it, then would it continue to fall under their 40 pages of regulations as commercial property with all their appendix and what you can and cannot do, as well as if it were residential?
I'll speak to that.
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to speak to that, please, ma'am. So to try to answer a couple of your questions, like the chairman explained, the overlay district is an instrument. It's a document that's to protect around the battlefield area, and both commercial, residential zones are allowed. This particular property that's in question is a commercial property. It was built as a commercial property and has been a commercial property. So I'm very familiar with the structure, been there all my life. So somehow along the way, how it was zoned residential was basically a mistake on the planning and zoning, whoever it was at that time, because it was never a residence. It's always been commercial property, like as a construction company, actually. So to answer your question, yes, the board does have the authority to change the zoning. The Planning Commission has the authority to bring a recommendation to the board, and then the board will consider their recommendation, and then the board has the authority to go with it, to go against it, or to amend it.
Right, I understand that. So, but then will it still have?
It still falls under the battlefield overlay guidelines, period.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
That was one part of the question. The second part of it, and I was involved with the purchase of this property a couple of years ago, but one of the people that is here tonight grew up there and know the piece of property well. I'd just like to bring up a couple of things. I know you say it was commercial, always commercial. Well, actually, it was kind of family property in that there were several houses. They all belonged to the Garner family. And yes, Mr. Garner kept his equipment, and he had his sign out front that was Joe Garner Heating and Air Conditioning. But little things like it never had its own water. The water came from the house. It was hooked onto the water meter. I don't know that he considered it so much a commercial piece of property as just family property. Then after Joe died, for a few years there was nothing, and then his son and daughter-in-law had a small business in there, Infrared, which really wouldn't require even commercial, the type of C1 commercial zoning to run. And then when Jim died, his wife ran it for a while, and then she closed the business. And at that point, we purchased it. We didn't purchase it as commercial property. We purchased the house with this wonderful, everything a guy could ever want across the street. So we really didn't purchase it as that. So it's gone a long time without anybody using it in any commercial capacity.
Okay, that's a very valid point.
Pardon me?
I said that's a valid point.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, you did say that the uses prior to it, though, the 3 or 4 that you mentioned by the family and other, those were business. In other words, it's not been lived in by anyone as a residence, but it was used by several different businesses.
Actually, my son did live there for a while. He
Well, that would
converted
have
the
probably been
front.
without permission, because it's not set up for human habitation, so we don't want to.
Well, it had a bathroom and 2 or 3 rooms, so he existed there, let's say, as his piece of
All right.
property. Okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else that'd like to speak in favor? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, my name's Laura Beth Newsom. I actually own 109 Park City Road, which is adjacent to 101 Park City across the street from this property. And I've been there my entire life. That was my grandparents' home place. My grandfather bought the entire plat there. My family's built on all the different angles. And as Ms. Michaels said, Joe, my dad worked for Joe when he was a teenager, so I'm kind of I've just always known, but that was their his personal garage. His name was there, but when you say commercial, there was never a business where cars pulled up, did business, and left. I know I have a husband who's in construction. I have a tractor in my yard. I've got a couple of trailers in my yard that we use, and I think Joe and Peggy always use that as that. Like, Joe parked all of his junk over there. When I was a little girl, it was a little girl's playground to go over there and climb on all the dozers and things that sat there. But anyway, my point being, my biggest concern is that area, and as I stated to the Planning Commission, I am all for growth in Walker County, and I want to see us do the right thing. But I don't think the right thing is necessarily change. The way it's zoned now, there are certain things that could be there, if I'm not mistaken, when I look at the grid for what could be in there. And I feel like if we rezone that to where a bar or something, a convenience store or something, you've got a daycare that's within a rock's throw, you've got a nursing facility. I don't know that you want to draw in that traffic to where those other things are going on also, as well as a community of families that live there. But I just wanted to clarify that in my 44 years, there's never been it's never been a commercial business there where there's been in and out traffic, if that makes sense. And I agree that Joe's name was on the thing. And
Yes, ma'am, and it was, the structure's built as a commercial structure.
It is.
It's not a residential structure, and like you said, the equipment's was there for hundreds of years.
It was an eyesore for the community.
Which is what kind of where he kept his business equipment and
Sure,
things.
but he
so-
lived across the street, so he walked
That's right.
over every morning, got what he needed from whereas my husband goes to the garage and gets what he needs
Mm-hmm.
to go. His wife must have just made his park it across the street, so.
One last question for you
Sure.
that I have. And I'm just trying to place it in my mind. On that side of the road, on Park City Road, from the battlefield to the AMVET, the American Legion at the other end, in my mind, and you correct me if I'm wrong, are there any residential structures on that side of the road? I'm seeing the daycare, the nursing home, the hospital,
And then you have the hospital street, skip over.
and then it's open and it's
And that's
vacant.
the back side of the housing.
It's the
for
back side of the old hospital housing,
The
right?
hospital housing,
But there on
correct.
the frontage on Park City, there, on that side of the road, there's
There
not
is
any
no
residential, it's all on the other
It's all
side.
on the
That's-
other
that's-
side,
okay.
correct.
Yes,
And if
ma'am.
I'm not mistaken, there's a new subdivision going in right there now. Like they cleared all the trees on that hill, and there's new housing going in there. But again, I've really tried to read that 41-page document about what that overlay, I know that blankets whatever you guys, is that correct? That whatever you guys choose to allow the zoning. And I would like to say, and I don't know Mr. Bang, but I just know that he doesn't live in our area, he lives out of the country. So he's not doing this for a personal gain, it's to sell. Does that make sense? So it's not like he's asking for this for his use. He's asking for it for a real estate move. So if it was somebody that could tell us what they were gonna do with it, I guess I would feel a little better about it. But I'm just asking you to consider something that literally faces the park. The lot itself faces the entrance to the walking to the park, as well as family, children, and elderly.
One thing additional, the document, the overlay document, it is called the Chickamauga Battlefield Overlay District, but that is a county document.
Okay.
It was a county ordinance that was put in place, even though it's titled Battlefield,
Okay,
it's just the area, so that is a county document that's governed now by this board and by
Okay.
the county government. So I know it's a little confusing because of the name, but
sure, okay, so you
So-
guys can make changes to that document as well then?
it can be, the proper procedure, but it also, the county also enforces that document.
Okay,
And what year was that set up? Do you remember, Paul?
Oh, gosh.
2005, I think is what it says at
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
top.
say, it's been quite some.
Right after the bypass was put in.
It was done when the bypass came around to protect the park and the military park.
I believe it goes all the way to the creek there where the Shaw SI plant is.
It does, and it actually goes into the city of Chickamauga, turns and goes down Lee Gordon Mill Road into the
So is that where it starts? Is this property where we're talking, is that kind of the start of it and then it goes through the battlefield?
Yes, I would say so. I'd say it probably starts at the red light there, or thereabouts at McFarland, but it's pretty much surrounds the Walker County side of the battlefield.
Gotcha.
Now, the other side's Catoosa, and so we don't, it doesn't affect.
And actually exterior of the battlefield.
Yeah,
Because that's federal land, so
Right.
it's
Right.
the county portion, and then, like you said, a portion of the city of Chickamauga also adopted that all the way down 27. So when you look at the facade of the new Wendy's and the new O'Reilly's Auto Parts store and the new Tennessee Valley Credit Union that's going in, they're all having to adhere to that overlay district as well.
Okay, so it is being enforced in
Oh,
other,
yeah.
yeah. So that's our biggest concern is that being so close. I mean, that parking lot for the battlefield, people are in and out every day, walking, running. So you just don't want to destroy the beauty of the park as well as our property. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else wants to speak on this request?
I just have one tiny little thing. The regular C1 zoning, I understand the nursing home probably is C1, but other than that, you have to go over to Lafayette Road to find any other type of true commercial property. Yes, there is a nursing home, I will give it that, but they're wonderful neighbors. But other than that, you've got to go to Lafayette Road to find any.
Okay. Yes, sir, come on up, please. Please state your name for us, please.
My name is Larry Bang. I'm the property owner, and I currently reside at 321 Franklin Circle, Fort Oglethorpe, where I have for 3 months. Prior to that, I was in the Philippines, and I am returning there for a short period. I plan to make my permanent residence here. Probably by the end of the year, I look forward to getting back here, away from there. I'm getting more confused than I was at the last meeting when this Chickamauga battlefield, when I had the building sold 2 or 3 times. I was trying to sell it. And everybody came back and said, you can't do this or that because of CBOD. So I thought CBOD was the zoning. And then they said, well, you're R3 zoning. And I said, can a property have 2 zones? I guess what CBOD is more like a land use plan. I was on the zoning board back in Florida 40 years ago, and we had an overarching land use plan, and you could have different zonings. But I was mistaken, so when I put my application, I put from CBOD. I should have put from R3 to C1. The property, as we noted, was built in '64 and was used for 20-some years prior to 2005 and after 2005. Mr. Garner, I think, died in 6 or 7. And then I don't know what the use was for a long period of time. I know when we bought the property, this infrared research company, which I don't have any idea what they did, but that was the Garner's daughters, had that business on the property. And that was there when I purchased it, or we purchased it, in January of 2019. Our intent was, we thought it was commercial when we bought it. I mean, they wouldn't sell the building. They wouldn't sell the house, unless somebody bought the building with it. They were afraid that somebody would make it look like it used to look. And I've got aerial photos. You can go to Google Earth, and Mr. Garner was quite a collector. And Google Earth photo there's a crane there, and there's bulldozers and dump trucks and all various sundry, a 40-foot semi-trailer backed in there. And I guess it was I can see where it was a bit of an eyesore. But that's, that was his construction company, and as the one lady was speaking, said her husband's a contractor. I guess if it's R3, if I was a contractor and I made it into a house, I could have all my equipment sitting out there. But if it's C1 and CBOD restrictions, I technically can't, because CBOD allows in one hand and then it takes away on the other. On the appendix on the page 40 of the 40 page, the prohibited commercial uses are unacceptable corridor commercial uses, outdoor storage buildings, vehicle parts and accessories, flea markets, funeral homes, crematoriums. But here's where, and I've had several people that have tried to, they've been to the county or were interested in the building, and they come back and they say, never mind. Because it says outdoor, or storage yards for equipment, machinery, and supplies for the building and trades contractors, which of course was exactly what it was, what it was built for. So even if I get the C1 zoning with those restrictions, that restriction still, the building can't be used for what is intended. And I know you're familiar, there's a little bit of office space in the building. I calculated it and it came to 12.4% of the building is a little office area in the very front. Just one office and a little reception area and 2 half baths. The rest of the building, I guess Imelda Marcos would love it. She could put all her shoes there. There's 750 some storage cubicles for, that's just one wall. Here's another wall. So for plumbing parts and various supplies that he had and air conditioning stuff. And then it's got big chained off commercial and almost industrial. That would make a hell of a bathroom fan in a residence. It's 3-foot diameter. And then there's overhead crane, there's an overhead hoist system and trolley through there for pulling engines out of heavy equipment and, and as such. And the ceiling's 14-foot high, ceiling with caged off areas like that. So it's obvious, everybody knows what it was used. What I was wondering is, and I've been trying to do some research and it's very difficult to find a definitive answer, but I guess when 2005, when a lot of the zoning was enacted, everybody had property all, and there was a lot of disputes. Hey, I've been using this for this, and there's a list of lawsuits and stuff about what went on property. Then they talk about it being vested and property being grandfathered, and I've really been trying to find clarification on the grandfathered. Maybe I don't need C1, but if it's grandfathered use as a construction company, because when we bought it, it was being used commercially. Then I intended on using it commercially. The one lady that spoke earlier can attest to that I've got a copy here from the Georgia Secretary of State where we formed a Georgia LLC for Life Electric Bicycles Limited at 100 Park City Road. We did that in March of 2019. And we delivered a semi back in there and brought us 88 electric bicycles with the idea to rent them in the park, which I still think would be a fantastic idea, a great place to ride a bike. But then COVID came along and the bikes were stored, and then eventually, park was closed and nobody was out doing anything, and the bicycles were sold, and that corporation ceased to exist last October 22nd. So there's never been a lapse when it wasn't either used physically, commercially, or wasn't off, people in the residential research, whatever infrared research was, or the construction company. So maybe the answer would be, is it grandfathered in, or when did Grandpa die? If it's not grandfathered in, it was grandfathered in initially when the zoning came into effect, and when did that cease? That would be a question. Or is it still grandfathered in? Because there's never been a year's lapse when it wasn't, if not a trade and business license, the intended purpose and the inventory was in there. And the only reason that we never opened it was due to COVID and a divorce.
Okay.
But
Any board members have any questions?
I got one question, and I may have just misheard you. You said that it is zoned R3 now?
R3, which is...
Okay, I was under the impression it was R1, say R3, that allows, that's, David, would you speak on R3 zoning? What all are allowable practices? That's one of the things that I don't know that these people understand as far as what R3 actually allows.
R3, I'd have to pull that on that.
But aren't we talking about multifamily?
Multifamily,
It's multifamily, and you have to have, it's 15,000 square feet per unit.
Mm-hmm.
It's 0.62 of an acre, which is 27,000 square feet, so you're allowed one unit. It is multifamily, but...
Which makes no sense. R3 would not, makes no sense to be there. R1 or commercial would make sense.
But the overlay also has restrictions for R3, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, that was, I didn't want to speak out of turn, but when you put that blanket of the CBOD, that 41-page document, that changes everything, so.
Yeah, the CBOD is the problem that keeps the building from being used for what it was built for. As it is right now with R3, it's a single-family home is all that's allowed on that piece of property. And it would be an interesting house. Well, I guess you could use the crane to move the bedroom set back and forth, or you have a hell of a bathroom fan.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else that wants to speak on this zoning request? Okay, we're going to move to the next one. We have a request from Kelly for a partial rezone from R1 residential to C1 commercial for property located at 778 Mission Ridge Road, Rossville 30741, tax map and parcel 0-123-041. Anyone here speaking in opposition? Opposition of this one? Yes, sir. Come on up, please. I saw him first. I'm sorry. You in opposition?
He was raising his hand for me, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I didn't recognize
Yes, come on up then.
for the Dollar General store, I guess. Good evening. My name is Scott Glass. I'm a voter, and I voted for two of you sitting at this table today in the last election. I live on North Long Hollow Road. I moved here 11 years ago after retiring from the military. My wife grew up there. My mother-in-law and her family have been there for 90 years, over 3 generations. And that's fairly typical of the people that live on North Long Hollow Road. The rezoning request that's in front of you is going to fundamentally affect the property and the use of North Long Hollow Road in an irreversible way. Once the approval has been given to move that, to build that store there, and 16,000 cubic yards of dirt put in there, drainage of all the water that's going to come from that, it's going to fundamentally change the way that we use that property. And that property is rural and is very, very dear to everybody. I know of no voter that lives on North Long Hollow Road that signed our petition that is in any way in favor of putting that particular commercial venture at that location. And if I could ask if any of those people here who would stand in opposition, if they would go ahead and stand up, since it's important for them to be here tonight. You may already have a, thank y'all. You may already have a, I didn't know it was that many, but the negative impacts may be in a packet that's already in front of you, but I would just like to just take a couple of seconds to amplify some of the problems. The first and foremost problem is traffic. That's already an extremely dangerous intersection from Mission Ridge Road and North Long Hollow Road. Within a couple of 100 yards, there are 4 streets that enter an already busy Mission Ridge Road. Within the scope I just told you, there are 13 driveways that are going to be affected. In the packet is a list of some of the unfortunately fatal accidents that have occurred there, and we don't see any way that the county could mitigate that. I do not know if the county has done a traffic survey for this, but it would probably be extreme if one were made. The only way to mitigate the traffic increase that would be a cause for that would be 2 stoplights, literally one within 100 meters or 100 yards, excuse me, of another. We think that this project, if approved, is going to require North Long Hollow Road to be widened and to have sidewalks put on it, because it's going to increase the commercial traffic to stock the store. It's going to increase the pedestrian traffic to patronize the store, and it's going to increase a lot of the vehicles on top of what's already there. I already use that intersection myself personally a minimum twice every workday, because that's how I go to work. My wife uses it probably about twice as much. I know for a fact I'm going to use it 4 times on Sunday for things that I have to do. It's a heavily traveled intersection. It's not a great intersection, and it's going to be complicated if a commercial business goes in there. In doing our homework, the county uses some very large yellow vehicles to move students back and forth. And some of those buses that Walker County uses, I did not know this before this, but they're 41 feet long. So if you're putting an entrance to the commercial business 100 feet off of Mission Ridge Road, well, 2 buses and that's all you got. So then traffic starts to build up. People take chances. They want to get out If you've been there through that intersection recently, it's not the safest intersection in Walker County. And a commercial business would make it worse. In the consideration of zoning criteria that's before you, point 11, it says, will it be unduly burdensome, I think, on the traffic, and the applicant put down there, unknown. And before the commissioners would vote on something like that, it would seem if it's within your power to do a traffic survey, that would be most appropriate. I do a traffic survey of the repairs of that road every time I drive on it. It's not the best. That's the worst piece of road in Walker County, and I know it because I drive on it every day. I don't see how a commercial business would help the maintenance of that road. Something's wrong with the road bed. There's a stream or a spring or something under it, and I don't know how far you're going to have to go down to dig. Commercial business is going to increase the load on that road. It's impossible to say that it's not. It's going to. It's just a fact of life. We also know, but don't know exactly the method of how the commercial property is going to affect the water runoff. And not to bore you with facts, but if you pave a 1 acre lot, you have 1 inch of rain put on it, that's 27,000 gallons of water that's going to flow off that 1 acre lot. And I used this joke last week, and it's probably pretty appropriate, but some guy named Noah, he said the water's got to go somewhere, and it's going to go past behind my house, behind his house, behind a lot of houses, and it's going to bring with it diluted hydrocarbons, oil, grease from the patrons that are at the store. Our favorite trash thing of this century is plastic bags. That's in every water system we have, and I don't want to see it encroach a spring that's on the backside of our property, which I care for and actually kind of like. There's going to be 16, it's in the record, it'll be at least 16,000 cubic yards of dirt. That is a lot of dirt. That's only going to fill the property about 5 feet. It may be more than that. If you put 16,000 cubic yards of dirt somewhere, it's going to divert the water that was going to be there. And it's going to divert it somewhere, and it's got to go somewhere. And I'm downstream of virtually all of that. So that would greatly concern me, that what is brought with it, and everyone here that just stood up, there's 4 of them that are on the upstream side. The rest of us, we get it when it rolls downhill. I know the applicant decided they were going to do an 8-foot privacy screen. Hey, that's great, but one thing that cannot stop is light. If you look on a topographic map, which I have, I'm at the same altitude or elevation as that proposed commercial business. And I like it out in rural Walker County. It's dark out there, and I like it. And I would rather it not be lit up in such a way that it's not going to be dark on my front porch anymore, which I'm greatly concerned about. But again, sir, I'm a good ways away from there. I'm I would say about 400 yards, maybe a little bit more away. Several people here tonight, that commercial business will be staring them in the face. It's going to be right on top of them. There's no amount of trees you could plant to mitigate the light pollution. I don't know a solution for noise pollution, and I don't know a solution for the traffic. And all of those are going to happen, and once they're done, they cannot be reversed. They cannot be reversed. As far as commercial, I don't know if I would object to it so much if it brought a new service that I was interested in. But it doesn't bring a new service or a new product or something new to sell that'll service the people in the community. It brings a 4th competing store for a convenience store that's within 100 meters, or I'm sorry, I'm using a military term, but 100 yards. There's a Food City, a massive store, good store, within 200 yards. There's an identical store, a Family Dollar, within 250 yards. And there's an identical store operated by the same chain down Johnson Road, a couple of miles away. I just don't know what adding a new one, now you got 4 decisions when you get to the really dangerous intersections. Do I go here, here, here? Not really joking, but just don't see the replication of that when there are other facilities that y'all control the zoning to that are collapsed, failed businesses, that they could go somewhere for that. In conclusion, I know your job is hard. I know it is. Sometimes it can't be too enjoyable. But for us, this is a life thing. I'm not going anywhere from that property. When I retired from the military, this is where I was going to stay. I'm married in this family. I can't get out. I mean, I'm not going to leave this family. I'm not going to leave that property. I'm serious. If my wife were to divorce me right now, I would go live in the barn if it was zoned properly that I could live in the barn. I've learned from this meeting. But it's going to put some things in place. I want to bring my 2 children back when they get through with the military. I want to bring them back there with their families and their children. But I don't want to bring them back to a place where I got to worry about the water. I got to worry about trash. I got to worry about North Long Hollow Road being a dangerous throughway, which it's about that far from being anyway. My family uses it. We all use it. We're through that intersection all the time. But if you rezone it, it has a long the effect is irreversible. It cannot be made right. And if you put 16,000 cubic feet of dirt somewhere, I don't know anybody that wants to go remove it. They just let it stay there and, you know, maybe move on to something else. Not against Walker County benefiting from this, because I'm a Walker County citizen. I live here. I'm very proud to be a Walker County citizen, and I want this county to do well. But I think it outweighs any possible commercial benefit or use if you put a duplicate, triplicate store at a very dangerous intersection that you just can't make that safe.
If we get you to wrap up.
Yes, sir. I was going to do my last thing here. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
You covered it all, Scott.
I hope so.
Anybody got any questions? Okay, thank you for speaking tonight.
Sorry.
Anyone else that wanted to speak, had anything additional to add? Yes, ma'am. Would like to? Yes, ma'am, please.
Might be short and sweet.
When you get up there, please state your name for us.
My name's Lou Ann Atkins. I live across the street from where this proposed building is going to go. I just recently sold my condo in Fort Oglethorpe to move back to this property. My family owns the property we have 6 acres that face Long Hollow Road, Mission Ridge Road, and Johnson Road. We're there at the corner. My brother is living in my dad's house up on the hill, and I moved back to help get the property back up to the standard it was when my dad was there. And this is the traffic. I sat almost 10 minutes yesterday trying to get out on Mission Ridge Road to go to the grocery store. And there's no cell reception down through there. You know, it's just the traffic, the water issues is just going to be something, and it's going to lower the value of our property. And for them to widen the road, they're either going to have to come across on our side, or they're going to have to move power lines that go down through there. And that's a lot of power lines and a lot of repositioning that's going to have to be done in order to make that a safe place to go in. And it's not going to be safe no matter what you do, because there's a little hill there. When you top that hill, tractor trailers coming in to deliver. If a car doesn't know that, doesn't see it, or doesn't know that that road's going to end, it's going to go right up under that tractor trailer. And I used to work in the trucking business, so I've seen those kind of accidents. And they're not pretty, they're ugly. And I just, for my own self, I don't want it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
How many of y'all want to talk?
Everybody's in agreement with the same?
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I think we've got, I think the board's got a pretty clear opinion of the folks in the neighborhood now, not to cut anybody short, but.
Okay, is the applicant with us tonight? Yes, sir, come on up, please.
If y'all could pass these around.
Oh, thank you.
And here's some, to the degree that anyone cares, I'll pass these around if y'all want to hand them out. My name is Bobby Howard. I live at 120 Mitchell Avenue, Cartersville. We reserve, both the Hibby properties and the current owner reserve our legal rights as provided by the Georgia State Constitution. I was told I only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to be succinct, and I'll try to do that without being too fast and disrespectful, but I'm going to try to go fast here. We're asking to rezone 3.7 acres out of a 21-acre parcel from R1 to C1 in order to build a Dollar General. The remaining 17 acres will remain zoned R1. The seller, who lives in California, will want to keep 1 acre up here. This was her family farm. Her dad bought the land in 1944. She grew up there. She was a cheerleader at Rossville High School. She married, moved to California, and lived there all her life. This was her family's house. It was finished in 1946 after the war. She won't sell part of the property. She'll only sell all of it. So and she's concerned about what's going to happen with the house. So she also asked us to do that architecture, that's a photograph of the building on Highway 136 in Dade County near Cloudland Canyon. It's a new building. And so this building will look just like that building. She'll keep 1 acre there. We will remodel her family home and surround it with 8 acres, and then we'll sell 1 other 8-acre lot. If this board would like, it's zoned R1. If they'll like, we'll put a restriction that only 1 home can be built there, and this is the only home here, just to reduce any possible future rezoning densities or whatever. This would be where the Dollar General is. Our driveway is 190 feet from the travel lane on Mission Road. That allows considerable car stacking for folks that are turning into there. We're also at the top of the hill, so people coming this way will be able to see. We planned it that way. If this is deemed too close, we can move it down the hill, past the top of the hill, which is probably a less safe situation, and we can build this plan with a corner entry and move the driveway over a football field down the road, way on down the hill. We can build either one. If the board would rather see this, we'll be glad to build this one. The scenario that we're presenting is less than a highest and best use for the property. This lady could probably make more money if she tried to sell it to a residential developer to go in there and put in a subdivision. But she wants to try to maintain that farm. She grew up here. She thinks that a Dollar General would work better than the subdivision. As far as there being other shopping nearby, and there's plenty of documentation, folks prefer a Dollar General 4-to-1 over a Family Dollar. That Family Dollar is lightly used. I see it. Every time I go by, I look at it. Dollar General's got stores 5 miles away in several directions. Those stores are overwhelmed. They need this store to take the pressure off those other stores. They have plenty of sales data. All the folks that live in this area shop at the Dollar Generals, and they're driving up and down Johnson Road and all these other roads to go. You can put a Dollar General here and reduce the total traffic in that part of the county. Everybody's going to complain about traffic. I bet you can't find a road in this county or any other county that someone's not going to complain about somebody driving too fast, too slow, too many turns, you name it. looking at the traffic counts, we've got the DOT traffic counts, I can show you that. There's 1,100 cars on Long Hollow Road. There's a left turn lane off of Mission Road onto Long Hollow Road. From the left turn lane on Long Hollow Road down to below the Family Dollar is an opposing left turn lane to allow left turns. Either way, for these roads and driveways. The biggest congestion seems to be in the right after school, the folks coming from the elementary school coming up and making the turns. The few times I've been there at 5:30, I don't see cars backing up. There's no backing up in the roads. You might see one car in a turn lane to turn onto Long Hollow, but there's also a lane to go around them. So there's no failing going on in that intersection. And it's a long ways from failing if a traffic study were done. We'll have a 36-foot wide driveway that allows plenty of tractor trailer movement. It allows plenty of car movement safely, so there won't be congestion here. We run AutoCAD. We verify our truck routing on site. The trucks can move good here. We've offered to widen the road 2 feet on this side, 2 feet on this side. There's plenty of shoulder and road to do it. There's no utilities in the way. Prior to investigating and getting further on this property, we met with Public Works, with Walker County Public Works, and they felt that our driveway plan was a good plan and was adequate to meet what the county needed. As far as lights in the sky, all the Dollar General's lights now are LED, night sky protected. They shine down, they don't shine out. There's old stores around with floodlights and some atrocious stuff. We will do detention, we will do stormwater quality. Walker County requires it. All of that will ensure the water. We can't divert and change the way water runs off the property. The water runs off the back of this property and runs under that pipe right there. We can't change that. It's going to run right there. We're going to slow it down up here with the detention basin. We've offered to the county, we can donate $5,000 towards improving this pipe. There's been some discussion with Public Works that this may help this area right here. This pipe's full of debris, and the $5,000 would clean it out. We would also offer to the county, if they wanted an acre, acre and a half, 2 acres right in here, so low area, an area to create a regional detention basin if the county wants it. If not, no big deal. It'll be about a year before we sell these properties. We won't sell these until after we're completed building this. So there's a year for the county to decide if they want that detention basin or not. And I don't know if y'all saw those photographs on the architecture. That is, the seller cares about what happens to this, to her parents' farm. And so that's, her husband's an architect. We actually negotiated with him to own that. We'll put a wooden screen fence to help limit any trash blowing. Can't do much whenever people walk out the front door of a store and take a yellow bag and throw it in the air. I've seen it happen, but we'll mitigate everything we can. I just don't know how to prevent that. Okay. I can't imagine anybody walks down Long Hollow Road now. I don't see any foot traffic pass. I can't imagine anybody's going to walk to the Dollar General store. So right now they're driving to the other Dollar General stores. The Planning Commission disapproved the parking variance. We can still build this store and do 53 cars instead of 35 cars. We can just pave all that asphalt and let it sit there and collect sunlight because it won't do any good. I don't know if that can be rectified or not. So, any questions?
Questions of the board?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howard. Okay, we have a request from Ms. White for conditional use variance for property located at 2664 East Highway 136, Lafayette, Georgia, 30728, map and parcel number 0-506-1-026. Anyone want to speak in opposition?
I'm here for Andrea White.
Okay,
Tarina Kaiser. I'm here to do the conditional use variance. Y'all had approved it for me last year. I had some terrible medical problems. I had 2 knee replacements. Fell and broke my hip while I was healing from that. So I'm selling the property to Victor Patel, who owns Catlett Grocery now, and he's gonna open it up, wanting to open it up as a grocery store / deli, just like it was before. So I'm just asking for a conditional use variance. Okay.
anyone else wants to speak on this one? Okay. Hearing none at this time, we're going to close our public hearing at this time, and we're going to move to the next item on our agenda, which is for the board to approve the minutes from our regular scheduled meeting back on July the 8th, 2021. So do we have a motion by the board to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Blakemore. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion of those minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved. Okay, at this time, we're going to take action on the application due to a medical concern for the conditional use variance for Ms. White for property located at 2664 East Highway 136, Lafayette, Georgia, tax map and parcel 0506-1-026. So do we have a motion from the board on this request?
I have a question.
Okay.
Before we move forward on that. Mr. Brown, if you don't mind, would you fill us in on what the Planning Commission's recommendation is on this particular request?
It's for them to grant her request.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we approve the request as per the Planning Commission.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Askew. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Commissioner Blakemore. Any further discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor in approving this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the request has been approved. Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll go back to our public comments. So this is where we allow anyone that would like to come forward to the podium and speak. We do have a 5-minute time limit. So if you have something that you'd like to address the county about, we ask you that you come forward. And anyone like to be recognized? Yes, ma'am. Come on up, please. Please state your name, please.
Sharon Rowan. I live in Rossville on Ridgeland Road. This is about excessive speeding going on our road. We are at the very end of the hill. So we've been there for 8 years. On May 3rd, I did go to the sheriff's office and filled out information about the excessive speed and if they could have a police officer sit in our yard or even our neighbor's yard across to the right. He is a veteran and a quadriplegic. He's had heart attacks. So he and my husband and I and our next door neighbor have a very hard time getting out of our driveway because of people coming down the road at 60, 70, I kid you not, 80 miles an hour. There's one in particular time where I was already halfway out into the road, and the one that we see all the time was coming down the road and swerved, almost hitting Mr. What's his name? Ray. His yard in there, trying to get away from me instead of having the proper speed and to stop. Anyways, nothing came about with that. Nobody was hurt, but it was a little scary for me. As far as the excess speed, obviously it endangers everyone and animals. We've had 3 cats, a deer, and a raccoon. There have been accidents, one almost taking our mailbox out. There was a family that hit the pole. Someone hit the stop sign at the end. So there's various things that's been happening on that road, and they will not stop. As a matter of fact, they get worse even when it's raining. I don't want to speculate on this part about drugs dealings or, drop-offs or whatever it is, but we see a few cars that we see all the time. We know who they are, going up and down almost every hour. I don't know if you don't work, I don't know what you're doing every hour, going up and down and coming back and then leaving another 20 minutes later. If you look a little bit over the hill, the houses that are in there are so dilapidated, garbage everywhere. They're not up to code, if I would say so. We do see little rats or mice in our yard. I'm sure other people have because of what's going up above on the hill. I don't know what to do here. I mean, is there anything that we can ask for? I would like speed bumps. That would be great, but somebody told, well, I think it was the sheriff's office said that because it's the county, they're not allowed to do speed bumps.
What is the posted speed on your road, ma'am?
35.
35.
Which has also an attached sign that says deaf child. So there's children. The neighbor that used to live next door to us had I think that was the one with the deaf child. They moved because of that problem. Well, not everybody is, capable of just moving. We like Walker County. That road, it's a cut through from 193. If you see if it comes out to the other end. So we would like to see if something could be done. The sheriff's office did have police officers stay in our yard twice, but that was it. So now here it is July and they're still doing it. So something could be done with that. That would be absolutely great.
Okay, the time has expired. We thank you for coming and speaking today.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and Sheriff's with us tonight, and also Captain Anderson, so they may want to have a conversation with you after the meeting if you can stay to the end, but we have a pretty long agenda, so we'd like to just talk to you afterwards, if that's okay. Okay, anyone else that would like to come speak tonight? Yes, sir, come on up, please. Please state your name, sir.
My name's Terry Tucker. I live on, where do I live at? Meadowview Drive in Chickamauga. I live next to him. But anyway, I own a cabin up on Lookout Mountain, and we have a problem with the woolly adelgea, which is killing our hemlock trees. I came to a meeting about 2 months ago. I was sidetracked by some guys said they could help us. They didn't give me any information that we could use. I finally got in touch with some people in Dahlonega, Georgia, that is SaveTheGeorgiaHemlocks.org. They gave me the information that we need to treat these woolly adelgias. My property, it's no problem. I can treat mine, no worries. The problem is it comes from the county's property on the north end of the Durham Trail. All those trees that's down through there is covered up with woolly adelgea. It's washing down on us. It's also going down on Lulu Lake Land Trust. I found that we can treat these trees with a chemical that will not hurt the creek, The creek has trout in it up on the upper end, not down on my end because they stopped stocking it, but the upper end has brook trout on it, native brook trout. That is along the walking trail up there. The trees, we have approximately 3,000 hemlock trees in that section of ground up through there. That's going to cost us about $2 cents per inch to treat those trees. All told, 2 cents per inch of diameter of that tree. The 3,000 trees, if you combine them, there's like 13 inches in diameter for every tree that's down through there. And it comes out to about $2,300 to treat those trees. It's up and down that area, up and down the Durham walking trail. But it's not, I can treat mine, like I said, but it's not going to do any good if we don't treat the rest of them. I would like to see the county, we can get volunteers. There is a chapter of the Save the Georgia Hemlocks on Lookout Mountain. It's run by a fellow named Jimmy Stewart, and he says that he will come out and give us a class, and we can find volunteers from like a FFA or the 4-H. If we can find some volunteers to help there, he's got volunteers to help. He does Cloudland Canyon and Dade County. But we need the county to come up with the funds to do the upper part of the Durham Walking Trail. Like I said, it's probably going to be about $2,300 to $2,500 max to treat all those trees. Lulu Lake is doing theirs. They're asking for $10 a tree donation, which just doesn't cost that much to do that. It's going to cost us, if you take a 22-inch tree, it turns out to be 7 inches in diameter is all it would be if you divide it. That's circumference of 22 inches. So you're talking about 14 cents to treat that tree. They're asking for $10 to treat that tree. So I think with the volunteers, if we could get the commission to warrant that, to help us with that, we could get it done. If we get enough volunteers, I'm sure we
See if we can work on that. I'd like to get more information from you because I do
Okay.
know that is a problem.
It is.
And I know the Lulu Lake Land Trust has been fighting that as well, so.
They have been. This treatment only lasts for 6 to 7 years at the most. The older trees that are dying, that are not, we can't do anything for those trees. They're only going to last another year or two. The treatment, if we treat it, would only last 1 or 2 years, and that's expensive to treat that older tree. It's a different form a different chemical that you have to use to treat it. So it's going to be very, very hard to treat the older ones. But if we can get something on the other trees, I'd appreciate that.
See if we work on that.
Terry, thank you
Thank
for
you.
providing that
Terry,
information.
Terry, at the end of the meeting, I would like to get the name of that chemical.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Good information. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move forward. At this time, our informational speaker this month is Mr. Dodd Worley, Program Director of Connection Northwest T4C. So, Mr. Dodd,
Yes, thank you for a change, is what T4C stands for.
come up here and
I'm a top agent here with
come up here and tell us what you do
All
to
right.
help the community.
Thank you. I'm Dodd Worley. I'm the Program Director for Connections Northwest and Thinking for a Change. This is my lead family assistance specialist, Dick Burgess. We're both from Walker County, live here, have families here. The Connections Northwest Thinking for a Change program is a grant from the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council where Jay Neal, a local here, is the executive director. It's a grant that goes out all over the state of Georgia. And the main purpose of it is to reduce recidivism with juvenile delinquents. So our clients are medium to high risk for recidivism. We don't deal with the low levels, just kind of the medium and the high ones. We have 2 programs. One is Connections. One is Connections. I'm going to let Mr. Burgess talk about that. And the other one is Thinking for a Change. That's a 25-lesson group-based program where we teach problem-solving skills, social skills, and cognitive self-change. And that's about all we do. Our purpose is to reduce recidivism for juveniles in Walker, Dade, Catoosa, and Chattooga counties. Tell them a little bit about Connections.
Okay. And the Thing for a Change is an actual class that the kids are
Yes.
together in. And the Connections part is what I do during the day with the kids. And it's basically what they call wraparound, which is where we identify the people that are already in the kids' life. We kind of come together as a team for the youth. It might be their psychologist, their probation officer, their coach. It could be whoever's in that kid's life, their preacher, parents, of course. Some of the things that we do is we assist the youth with building that individual team. We also connect the youth and family to services, mental health services. Sometimes we'll take their psychological and make sure the psychological recommendations are being followed, and help the family connect to those services. We support the youth with vocational training and employment skills. I just took a youth to Lake Winnie today. He got a job there, so hopefully that'll work out for him. I also work with the Youth Success Academy, helping some of the kids that are involved with the Department of Juvenile Justice that are required to go to school. We'll help get them into that program, which, as you all know, is a great program. We make available opportunities for membership in youth organizations. We try to connect them to that. We provide opportunities for growth for the kids. Brought a few testimonials. Judge Ellis of Juvenile Court, T4C and Connection programs are the backbone of my efforts to rehabilitate delinquent youth and allow them to remain at home instead of going into the system. I've seen many truly amazing kids get their lives back on track, being productive members of society. With the help of these programs, they are without a doubt my most utilized community-based service for delinquent youth. And I've got a few more I'll leave with you all. But basically, we just really trying to keep these kids that used to would have gone to jail for unruly, things like that aren't necessarily out there breaking into cars, things of that nature, that just really need some support from the community. We want to prevent them. One thing I do is I tell the parents, if something's not an emergency, don't call 911, call me first, and let's talk it out, make sure it's an emergency, things like that, so these folks don't get called in the middle of the night. But anyway, that's the basic gist of what we do. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions?
Just one more thing, Walker County has served as the fiscal agent for this grant. It is a reimbursement grant, so Walker County is reimbursed. And we just really appreciate y'all's participation in this grant, in this program. It's really important.
And I appreciate really what y'all do, because y'all do make a true difference in these young people's lives.
Thank you very much.
Very, very good program.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would got one copy.
Okay, under our new business, we have a resolution here we're going to present tonight, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Walker County to amend the fiscal year 2021 budget for appropriations of funds for the Walker County Sheriff's Office. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Walker County Board is the governing authority of Walker County, Georgia, and whereas OCGA 3681-3D requires any increase in appropriations at the legal level of control of local government, whether accomplished through a change in expected revenues in any fund or through a transfer of appropriations among departments, shall require the approval of the governing authority by an ordinance or resolution. And whereas the Walker County Sheriff's Office is a legally constituted department of Walker County government and is indeed of funds to provide technology improvements for its deputies, therefore be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Walker County, Georgia hereby reallocate $45,000 from the Capital Court Services Fund, which was it's allotted funds for a vehicle purchase, and $112,460 from the Capital Data Processing, MSI, which is our IT computer capital fund. And we're going to move those funds to the SPLOSH 2020 for other equipment in the FY 2021 budget, so resolved and adopted the 22nd day of July 2021. So what we're doing here, we're not increasing the budget, we're just taking and reallocating capital funds, moving those over into our SPLOSH capital funds for the additional funding that is needed to accomplish the goal of getting the body and dash cams for our sheriff's deputies out on the streets. And so the project was to get the technology, the cloud storage and all, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes, and the sheriff will be presenting as well. We needed some extra funding to make that happen so we can pay for all that up front at one time and not incur any debt or any financing cost or what have you. So we're taking and working in collaboration with the sheriff. He recommended and said he had the $45,000 that we could transfer over. And then through the commissioner's office, we're taking the remaining funding of $112,460 and moving that collectively over so we can accomplish that project that will be coming up on the next couple of resolutions. So do we have any questions from the board?
No, sir.
Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve this resolution.
We have a motion by Commissioner Stoltz. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hart. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this resolution is passed unanimous. Okay, now we have a purchase order 2021-1762 for 67 Windows 10 Pro Latitude 5520 laptops for the Walton County Sheriff's Office. And our lead project engineer on this project is Curtis Creekmore. So I'd like Curtis, if you would come up to start with, and then the Sheriff's Office may have some additional comments on this, we'll see. But Curtis has done a phenomenal job on this project and working this. So Curtis, give us an update, please.
I appreciate the opportunity to address the board. As you know, we've been working with the Sheriff's Office for several months on upgrading the emergency service software. And I can report today on this portion of the project that we've done field testing and everything's complete and signed off on, and we're all in agreement to move forward. So with the purchase of these laptops, it will allow us to address some performance issues for the deputies out in the field and our security issues that we strive to obtain over the county-wide system. So it addresses both of those things with this move and the purchase of the laptops. If approved, we will be able to enhance the security and safety of the officer and the integrity of our data, on our network countywide. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge.
Very good. Any questions from the board?
Are these the ones is this the laptops, y'all been field testing these, and everybody's getting the results we need out of it? I know we have lacking areas of service and things in the county, but this is really going to help us.
It's a drastic improvement over what we started.
Okay. Thank you.
This will replace all the existing computers and.
Everything we've got is Windows 7 or Windows 8, and they're not even supported anymore. So.
Yeah, so this is a great project, and the test has gone very, very well, went very, very fast, and appreciate, Curtis, your leadership on this and all that you've done to collaborate with the Sheriff's Office and get this project to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have this purchase order. We do have a quote from our trusted vendor that we work with on a lot of our security things, and they have been in partners with us on this field test. So we present this we have a motion to approve this purchase order request for $117,453 and a penny. This is in our capital expenditures for computers out of the general fund budget, so we will be paying this in cash. There's no debt, no finance or anything here at all. This was budgeted for IT expenditures in this year to make this project happen. So we have a motion to approve this purchase order.
A motion to approve it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Askew. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Commissioner Blakemore. Any further discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this purchase order is approved. Okay, and this goes in collaboration with the resolution we did earlier. This is a purchase order 2021-1762 2022-1773. This is for 40 in-car cameras and 75 body-worn cameras for the Walker County Sheriff's Office. The total capital investment is $557,460. This will be paid for in cash in total through our SPLOSH funds plus the funding that we just transferred. So at the time of completion of this project, if the board approves, we will pay this in full. So we'd ask if the sheriff or Captain Anderson would like to add any comments on this project. Good evening.
Gentlemen, I appreciate the opportunity to address the board. We have been working, when I say we, Captain Anderson and I, have been working and talking about body-worn cameras now probably for at least 2.5 years, maybe longer, knowing that it was something that we were facing in the technology world of law enforcement that we needed to consider. There was a lot of talk about the state or the federal government mandating all law enforcement agencies to go to body-worn cameras, and I was totally against that. The mandate, I think it should be left up to each agency to make that decision for their community. I'm not a large fan of body-worn cameras, but I've come to realize that sometimes you have to get on the program, you have to get on the bus, or you're going to get left behind. So I made the decision about a year and a half ago, that we needed to work toward this and look for the funding for outfitting all of the deputies with the body-worn cameras. That's the easy part. The physical camera that you see on the individual is probably less than $1,000. The costly part of it is the storage of the data. And running as many calls as we do, probably 150 a day in a 24-hour period, somewhere in that neighborhood. When you count court services in with our road patrol, you're using up a lot of storage space. So Captain Anderson went to work on this, and this is a 5-year project. This total capital outlay is for 5 years. It's for all of the hardware and all of the cloud storage for a total of 5 years. And at the end of the 3rd year, WatchGuard is the company that we're recommending that we go with, will come in and replace the body-worn cameras after the end of the 3rd year. So we'll get new hardware at the end of the 3rd year, and then the life of this is for that 5-year program for 60 months. At that point, we would have to come back to the table and revisit this again. But we know how technology goes. In 5 years, who knows what the technology will be? Who knows how much the cloud storage will be? We hope that all this will come down and decrease in price. I believe this is the correct way to go. I am in favor of it. The more I've looked at it and studied it over the last 2 years, I think it's something that law enforcement agencies all across America were somewhat expected by the public. These people that live in the community, I think, want to see real time what happens out there. So this is a way to get it done. We won't, and we'll do our best to use this equipment and this technology to the best we can to continually improve on our services to the citizens of the county. I'm going to ask Captain Anderson, who has actually been the man behind putting all this together, just to come up. I may have already spoke on everything, Chris, but if you want to add some things to this.
I would just reiterate, we did some testing of several different models. Of course, every company, there's some out there cheaper, but when it comes on the back end of your data, if we decided to go away from other companies, we keep our data, but it's not in a viewable form, so basically it's useless. WatchGuard, if we decide at the end of 5 years we want to go a different route, we get all our data, it's all viewable. What we anticipate being able to do is every officer in an enforcement function will have a body cam. So that, number one, it protects citizens, but it also can protect the officer against
some false allegations or things like that. So it's something that 10 years ago, I really didn't think a whole lot about it, but in light of current events, you know, the way the political climate is moving, you know, we finally have been able to find money to go this route again. The equipment purchase don't even cost half of what that total amount is. It's that data storage, and we're talking, you know, you got 75, well, plus 40 video cameras and cars running. That's a lot of data a day. So, you know, it's just be aware that at some point in the near future, as you start dealing with my deputies, you will see they'll be wearing cameras. So I don't think we'll end up on any TV shows, but you know, so. Do y'all have any questions about and what those do, I meant to add, is that they also wirelessly upload. All they got to do is pull in close to the sheriff's office. They'll hit a wireless access point, and the data is automatically uploaded to the cloud. It can't be tampered with. It can't be removed. Can't be deleted. So once it's there, it's there.
Yeah, Captain Anderson, I'd say, has done a lot of work on this, and like you say, testing equipment, working with vendors, whittling the pricing down on this project as well. Yeah, so we've had a couple of conversations and trying to, like you say, work together to find where this funding is going to come from, because this was one of our core safety projects. And so there's $400,000 that was allocated in the 2020 SPLOSH for body and dash cams out of our SPLOSH funding. And so the budget amendment we did a while ago makes up that difference. And you will see on page 3 of the proposal, they did have an option to pay this out yearly over 5 years. I recommended that we did not do that. We've got the SPLOSH funding accrual to cover this. We could offset the difference we needed out of our general fund and working together. And that way, we're not financing anything. We're not creating any debt. We're taking care of this, and then we're covered for 5 years. And then again, they get equipment upgrade of their hardware in 3 years. So I know it does show those options, but the intent of this and the proposal being presented here tonight is once we're billed by the vendor, then we would immediately pay it in full. So any other questions of the board?
I do have a question, Captain.
Sure.
Will the detective division also be issued cameras?
They will be issued. I am currently reviewing policies on how those would function, because there's certain areas that you wouldn't have it on, certain privileged areas, hospitals, mental health facilities, things like that. So, but yes, they're going to be available to every officer that's in an enforcement role, CID, court services, patrol. So.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the purchase order before you, 2021-1773, in the amount of $557,460 for the 40 body cams and the car cams as well. So do we have a motion to approve this purchase order?
Make a motion to approve this purchase order.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Stoltz. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Blakemore. Any further discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, purchase order is approved by the board. Okay, our next purchase order, we've got some great vehicle needs. This is purchase order 2021-1782. This is for an a 2021 F550 chassis, 4x4 crew cab, 179-inch wheelbase. This is also funding that was set up in our 2020 SPLOSH. So you do have a spec sheet here that gives an overview of what the vehicle will be with 6.7 liter engine, diesel, V8. This vehicle is very much needed to tow some of our heavy equipment, such as our Bobcats and things of this nature. They are actually having an auction tonight. Potts Auction Company is auctioning off 4 or 5 of our F550s that either have bad engines or transmissions or both. So we are down to the bare bones. We were able to secure through Lee Smith the government price point, so we get a substantial discount of this. So this chassis here is $57,750. So do we have any questions on this purchase order? Any questions of the board?
No, sir.
Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve this purchase order in the amount of $57,750 to be paid from the SPLOSH funds?
I'll make a motion to
We have a
approve.
motion by Commissioner Blakemore. Do we have a second? Have a second by Commissioner Hart. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this purchase order is approved, unanimous. Okay, we have another vehicle purchase. This is another F-550 2021. This is also a crew cab, four-wheel drive. This one has a 203-inch wheelbase. Also, this one is also equipped with a 11-foot platform body and undermount toolboxes. And again, we've got the state contract pricing on this one as well. And this is also coming from Lee Smith, very similar to the one we just approved. This one's just a longer wheelbase and already has a flatbed and toolboxes. And this one's actually ready to be put on the road once we take possession of this, once the board approves it. So any further discussion or question on this one?
No.
Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve purchase order 2021-1781 in the amount of $63,487 out of our SPLOSH funds?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Stoltz. Do we hear a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Hart. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this one's approved. Okay, this next one is very, very much needed. We need a larger truck to move our mini excavator around to make sure we have enough capacity to haul this. Plus, this also has already on this vehicle, this F-750. This one is a 2019 model. This one was one that was being custom made for another customer that backed out of the deal. So just finding an F-750, Commissioner Blakemore actually run up on these trucks, and so I'm grateful that he found these. So very much appreciate that, because we've been in desperate need, and there's just not any F-750s around. So when we identified, even though this one is a 2019, the warranty doesn't go in until the purchase is made and they actually title this truck. So it doesn't concern us or scare us at all that it is a 2019 because it's never been titled. It's a new truck. And this one also has 11-foot dump bed on the back of it. This one's also completely outfitted, ready to go to put on the road, to put in service, to be able to move our mini excavator. Again, these are capital expenditures from our SPLOSH money where we knew we desperately needed to improve our fleet in our Public Works Department. So we have a motion to approve purchase order 2021-1780 for the F-750 for $84,828.
Make a motion, we approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Askew. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Blakemore. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Purchase order approved. Okay, the next one we have here is a professional service agreement for consideration. This is with Barge Design Solutions Incorporated. This is to engage them to do a conceptual master plan for the Rossville, Georgia sports complex. This is just an agreement to engage in the design, and also they would come back with those recommendations and layouts, and also give us a cost estimate on what it would take to implement such a program. So this lays out the total scope of work. And for the initial discovery phase, lump sum is $6,800. The design and concept development is $9,400. And the master plan rendering, they would produce an actual rendering that we would have and be able to work from to see the community input and to see how such a concept or rendering would be actually where the funding would come from. So there's not any funding that's been allocated for a capital project like this. This is just really the study phase and to engage with a professional company that has done a lot of these. They come recommended to us from 2 other surrounding communities that have used them, that have done this type of service work, and they've done a real good job, and they've come highly recommended. So any discussion, any questions on this service agreement?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a
No, sir, you're not at this time. It'd be out of order. So this is for the board.
Out of order to ask a question on this?
No, sir, not at this time. Okay, does anyone from the board have anything to say on this?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr.
So, the total cost of this is what?
What's that, just about $19,000?
$19,000. Okay. At this time, I disagree with that, and Whitney, you don't have to write all this down, right? You can just take a break. Because I wrote that out for you. I disagree with spending county taxpayers' dollars in the city of Rossville. I know it's only $19,000, and that's about 0.05% of our annual budget. But the study is going to lead to about $2 million of construction. And then we're going to add staff to our county budget to operate it. Now, I know the recreation department's important. I grew up playing rec ball. My kids played rec ball in the Fed, so I know it's important to the community. But I can't support the expenditures when we got so many other issues, and I want to cover those issues. Number one, our debt. Our county debt is still $23 million, is that right? So $23 million. But the city of Rossville's debt is zero. The city has no debt whatsoever. So I don't think we need to ask the taxpayers of Walker County to invest the money since we're still trying to get out of debt. When our county is out of debt and we have the extra money, then we could assist the city of Rossville and other cities in the county. But keeping in mind, there's also 2 other recreation departments in the county, Rock Springs and Chattanooga Valley. So I'm sure these departments want some money from us too. Number 2, we still got, in this project, we're looking at potentially $2 to $2.5 million, just roughly. But Walker County's still got 52 employees that are active in the defined benefit plan, and I think Sheriff Wilson's one of them, and are you one also there? So we got 2 that are here. I think that's all.
All 4 of those are.
All 4 of those are. Oh, I'm sorry, I left y'all out. So there's 4 people here involved in that plan, and y'all salaries were all frozen in 2012. And the plan is currently being reviewed, and you guys know this, by the ACCG, and they are going to come back to us and say, County Board of Commissioners, here's your options, here's what you can do to correct the misfortune that happened to these people. But I don't think we, as a county, need to get involved with this until we have the options in front of us to fix their plan. Because this is going to be, we think, $5 million, maybe $10 million, we don't really know. So to dive into something else new with that in front of us, I don't think it's a good idea. And the third reason I don't agree with it is because we've still got about 25 miles of unimproved road in the county that we get calls about every day. And I know we spend a lot of money here. We just spent $900,000 tonight, just the last few minutes. But I would much rather see this $20,000 or $19,000 go to improving some of those county roads. They'll buy about 40-something loads of gravel that Carla could use to improve the roads that they call me about every other week that we still haven't addressed at this time. So I think it's good to support recreation departments. We have City of Rossville Rec Department, the City of Lafayette Rec Department, Chickamauga, I think, has a rec department in the city of Chickamauga. They're all city ran. And then there's 2 county rec departments. So if we as a county board dive into one of these cities, and I think we obligate ourselves to dive into the other cities and the other county rec departments. So I think we need to look at this a little longer. I would like to see us have a solution on these individuals' retirement before we dive into something new for the county. That's all I got to say about it.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
No, sir.
May I ask the other board members?
No, sir, not this time. It's not time for public speaking. No, sir. We need to sit down, please.
I can't
Okay.
ask the other board members to.
No, sir, you can't.
Okay.
Mr. Blakemore, do you have something, sir?
Yeah, I strongly disagree with Commissioner Hart on that. There's no better thing to invest in than the future of our county, which is the youth, that has been overlooked for years and years. It was one of my passions. One of the reasons I ran for this position was to focus on the youth of our county. We're working on roads. Chairman Whitfield's been paying into the retirement, looking for things that we can do to fix this retirement. We're working on as a board now. And I don't think there's any better time to start looking at investing in our youth than now. We're way behind from Catoosa County, Chattanooga. We're way behind the times. We have talked as a board about helping other wrecks. This is not just about Rossville, but we feel like Rossville is the furthest behind. And the two that he mentioned, Rock Springs is privately owned, and Chattanooga Valley has been renovated right now by the Walker County School Board. Thank you.
Commissioner Askew, do you have anything on this?
You know, I see both sides. I mean, like I said, I understand completely Commissioner Hart's detailed explanation, and I agree. We are working on those problems, and we are all aware that we are moving forward on those. And I do have a strong opinion that that our youth is our future. We're all getting a little older, so somebody's going to have to take our spots. But I don't have a problem looking into trying to start a process of what it would take and getting some ideas and all. But I understand. I do understand both sides, and that'd be all I'll have to say right this second.
Okay. Commissioner Stoltz?
I agree with Commissioner Askew. I can see both sides as well. The retirement is something that's very important to us, and it's something that we've been working on, and we want to do the right thing. But I also know, just like you guys said, the youth is the future of this community. We heard from Mr. Dodd Worley tonight, and certainly we want to keep all of our youth out of the Department of Juvenile Justice. I spent a couple of years working in the Department of Juvenile Justice, and it's a sad situation to see youth who did not have opportunities, youth that was led astray and wound up incarcerated. And it's a proven fact that sports will keep youths, adolescents out of trouble. It's a significant deterrent. And just to reiterate what Commissioner Askew said, I think if we look at this, look at the feasibility of it, have a starting point, I think it would be beneficial not only for that community, but for our county as a whole. Thank you.
Good points, both of you, and I agree with you. The recs are very important. But when I look at the dollars of it, I mean, and I know we don't have a dollar figure, but we know about where it's going to be. Then I look at the debt that we're still struggling with. And I looked at the city of Rossville, who the rec belongs to, has no debt. And then when I look at these guys, who we don't know how much money we owe them, the rec department is in Rossville now. Is it great? No, probably not. Does it need improvement? Yeah, it probably does. But right now, I don't know if it's something we should commit to until we have some answers on mainly what the pension's going to cost. I mean, we have no clue what it's going to cost. We really don't. Now, we should know within...
They hope to have us a proposal next week.
Next week. So, I don't know if we might should table this until we kind of see that dollar figure, because if that dollar figure is a lot more than we think it's going to be, I mean, I don't know how we could... I mean, I know people say, well, it's just $19,000, but it is $19,000, and it's coming out of our general fund, and we don't even have budgeted for this, do we? Yeah, so that's my point with it, and I'll leave it at that.
Any further discussion of the board? Okay, at this time I'll call for a vote. This is an action item for consideration, so do we have a motion on this item?
I would make a motion that we table it until we have a study back from ACCG on the pension plan.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hart to table this action item at this time. Do we have a second? Do we have a second to the motion? Not hearing one, the motion dies due to the lack of a second. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve it as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Blakemore to approve this based off of the service agreement as presented, excuse me. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
So we do have a second by Commissioner Stoltz to the motion to approve the professional service agreement with Barge Design Solutions, Inc. for the conceptual master plan proposal for the Rossville, Georgia Sports Complex. I think it would be in order on this one if the clerk would call the roll for a vote.
Commissioner Blakemore.
Yes.
Commissioner Askew.
Yes.
Chairman Whitfield.
No, I wouldn't vote.
You don't vote, sorry.
Okay.
Commissioner Hart.
No.
And last, Commissioner Schultz.
Yes.
Okay. So the vote's 3-1 to pass this agreement. Okay, the next item that we have is the Office of the Governor of Criminal Justice Coordination Council Subgrant Award. Project name is Juvenile Justice Incentive Grant, subgrant number Y22-8-025. This is the grant that funds what Mr. Worley and company come up and spoke with about tonight. We wanted to have them in. We don't actually contribute any dollars to this program, but as he indicated, we are the fiscal agent, and the county has done this for many years. I don't know how many, but when I came in office, this was something that was already in place. And these, again, you see there are federal funds for $142,843, and it shows zero matching funds. This grant period would run from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2022 to fund the juvenile justice program that they have continued to do. Our contribution to this is just the back office, the management of the funds, the grants. It is a reimbursement grant. Mr. Worley does a great job working with our CFO, Greg McConnell, pretty much on about a quarterly basis, and they submit those for reimbursements. Things have run very smooth. We've not had any issues. This is also part of our audit process, so it would be my recommendation as the chair that we move forward with the approval of this. So any further questions on this? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve this grant?
I'll make a motion to approve this grant.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Blakemore. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimous. Okay. I know y'all been here a long time on these rezones, so appreciate you bearing with us. But the first one that we have here is for the rezone from C1 commercial to R2 residential for property located at 7001 North Highway 27, Rock Springs, Georgia, 30739, tax map and parcel 0328-1-011. So we would ask our planning director, David Brown, if you would come up to the podium, if you could, if there's any additional information that the board would need on this request, and any information that's passed over from the planning meeting on this.
Excuse me. We ran out of.
Okay, so be on your second page there toward the bottom. The commercial rezone, this is the one there in Rock Springs that Mr. Bobby Team spoke about.
Right, that was approved and nationally voted to be that. There is an actual building there, and they are looking at coming in and building apartments in phases. and that was voted to pass on the approval.
So the recommendation of the planning board was
Yes.
unanimous to move.
Yes, to rezone.
Recommend the rezone. Okay. Any further discussion of the board tonight?
I have one question. That's right, that on 27, have we looked into, or do you know if anybody, they've looked into the, with GDOT on, their access as far as the decel lane?
That'll be something has to be done when they do a
After.
traffic study and all. That'll be done with the preliminary and all, when they do decide the size, how many apartments and how many.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Brown, are the apartments gonna be possibly behind that existing structure? Is that where
That
they-
used to be like the flower shop,
Yes.
yes.
So behind that?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure will.
thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so we have a recommendation from the planning commission to move forward with this rezone. So do we have a motion on this action item?
Motion to approve the rezone.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hart. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Commissioner Askew. Any further discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will be marked as approved as submitted. Okay, this is the Mr. Bangs' rezone request. This is the one that had the Chickamauga Overlay District. That's, I think we learned tonight, is currently listed as R3, but it does carry the designation of the overlay district, and the request of the applicant is to go to a C1. So David Brown, if you could speak on this one as well, sir.
This was a completely different meeting the other night. Why it was denied is the way it was presented from Mr. Bang on his request. Because in the overlay district, no matter what you ask for, it has to be CBOD R3 changed to CBOD C1. It was asked to be dismissed, which the Planning and Zoning Committee does not have a dismissal, so it was denied. If it had been written right from Mr. Bang, we believe that it would be approved because that is a commercial building, and that is allowed in the overlay district with restrictions. So it was the actual verbiage that was denied, because only the board can change an overlay district zone to something else. That's where the misconfusion was on this.
So the intention was from the applicant was to be a C1.
It should have been CBOD R3 to CBOD C1.
So it's a CBOD either way. So
It's
it really comes down to.
The zone cannot, the planning and zoning, only the Board of Commissioners can change a zone in anything. It has to go before y'all.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of Mr. Brown? Any discussion of the board on this? Okay, hearing none, what's the board's pleasure on this one? Do we have a motion?
From what I'm understanding, Mr. Brown, now, the verbiage was the issue on the planning commission's decision. Was anybody there, Mr. Hart, were you there?
Yeah, it was pretty confusing. I was there. And
Would you elaborate just a little for us as well, please?
well, I was educated on what the CBOD even meant. I know the property pretty good. I knew the Garner family for years, so
Right.
I knew it was kind of their garage. So, and they talked about that some there, but it was voted on, I think, unanimously to leave it the way it is. Am I correct in saying that, Mr. Brown? Or it was unanimous or 9-1, I can't remember.
It was voted, it was because of, like I said, the way it was put in there. Even when you go to the Q Public, it is confusing because it is zoned commercial, but that is for tax purposes only.
So the way the document was wrote up is like they were trying to remove out of the CBO.
He was trying to take that 1 acre out of the battlefield overlay and make it commercial, which he cannot do. Planning and zoning cannot do that. It was a misunderstanding between us and Mr. Bain as far as the verbiage.
It stays in the overlay district regardless of what the zoning
It
is.
stays
So
in the
really the
overlay
question at hand is the board's pleasure for it to be changed from an R3 to a C1 zoning?
Well, my opinion from the pictures, and I've not been inside the building, but I'm very familiar with it, as, like you said, been there forever, and it was not built as a residential structure. It won't meet the requirements for residential habitation, I know that.
It would have to be torn down
Right.
because of your egress, ingress, all the new building codes, it would not pass for a residential structure.
Right, and I don't think that was ever the intent. It wasn't built as a residential structure. It's always been a commercial, and from the pictures that I saw from the inside, it's been used for some type of business of of storage or industrial. I don't know what businesses have been there, but I wanted to make sure that I understood that. I realized that the planning commission voted it down, but I think I understand that it was probably more because of a confusion on the way the request was made, because there's no doubt it's a commercial building. It's not a residential structure, period.
It can be used as commercial, but it still has to follow the restrictions of the overlay district.
So,
Sir?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to use it for commercial then. It's very limited on what they can use it for.
If Mr. Bain was gonna use it for electric bikes, no. He's got a warehouse.
But what I'm saying is there's a lot of limitations on what.
Yes, there's a lot of limitations on it.
But isn't it more restrictive as R3 though? It's even more restrictive.
Oh, it's
as
much
R3.
more than R3. Yes, see, that's what I'm saying. R3, I can't even, that doesn't even make sense to me in the zoning world, because from what's around it as far as institutional, with the hospital and the nursing home and the daycare.
If you look down McFarland Avenue.
Right.
Part of McFarland Avenue coming from Mission Ridge Road is overlay district also.
Mhm.
You've got your map code, you have your, used to be a daycare there. Another business has moved in, you've got your snack shack, all of that. Because the overlay district wasn't put in effect until 2005. That's when it was started being more enforced. And there are restrictions. No, he can't come in there with 15 bulldozers and all, no. But as far as inside, as many square feet as he got, he could do the bike shop. I know there's another person looking at some kind of like a bronzing, where they coat bronze stuff, gears and all that. And that would be inside warehouse storage. But a commercial business could go in that building with the restrictions that's in the overlay district for commercial.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I personally, like I said, I've listened to both sides, and I appreciate the input from everybody. I have a hard time feeling like that a residential structure on that corner that everything else is institutional or commercial, or all the way on Park City Road on that side. And then back the other way, you get into the old Fort, the Fort Oglethorpe apartments and things. But I just know, I know for a fact that it was built as a commercial building. It wasn't built as a residential structure, and I just feel like that's the use that it should be allowed for. Now, it's going to have to fit the overlay district guidelines, which, as Commissioner Hart said, is going to greatly limit what you can or can't do there. But I believe I'd like to make a motion that we allow it to be the commercial property that it's been since the building was built. I don't know how it ever received an R3 zoning, except for when zoning came into the county. There's a lot of properties that were zoned, and we've got spot zoning and things like that. That's something we've got to look at and review. But I just feel like that it's a commercial building. It's always been a commercial building, and if we can put a good commercial use in there that would fit the needs, fit inside the overlay, I don't think that would be a problem. So I'm gonna make a motion that we allow, the commercial zoning, under the Battlefield Overlay District requirements.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Askew to approve the request of the C1 commercial use and still keep the Chickamauga Battlefield Overlay District intact for that property. So that would be a motion with the conditions of the CBOD restrictions still be. So that's the motion on the table. So do we have a second to support that motion?
I'll second that, and I'm basing that decision on looking at the photographs of that building. It's clearly a commercial building. And so, and I've driven by that building for 40 years, and I just always thought it was probably zoned commercial. I was really shocked.
Well, it should have been. When zoning came in, there should have been a commercial building.
Yeah, I was really shocked. So I will second the motion.
Okay, so we have a second by Commissioner Stoltz. Any further discussion of the board on the motion and the second? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is unanimously approved with the condition to stay in the overlay district for the C1 zoning. So sign that with condition. Okay, the last item on our agenda is a request from partial rezone from R1 residential to C1 commercial for the property located at 778 Mission Ridge Road, Rossville, Georgia, 30741, tax map and parcel number 0-123-041. This is the one that we heard testimony on about the Dollar General store. So, Mr. Brown, if you'd like to speak to this one, sir.
My conflict on this one. This was voted by the Planning and Zoning to deny due to the request and the presentation from the citizens of that north long haul of Mission Ridge Road due to the traffic, the accidents, the access, the concern with the stormwater. The gentleman made the remark about the 29,000 gallons per acre on that. So it was voted to deny the request for a partial rezone.
Okay, thank you.
And you said, was that unanimous, you said, or did you say, what was the vote on that?
Can you remember?
It was unanimous. It was unanimous?
So the recommendation of the Planning Commission was unanimous from that group to approve that. So there was a move from them from a unanimous vote of denial. So what's the pleasure of the board on this one?
I'd like to make one comment, please. Dollar General has been a great partner with Walker County. We've got, I don't know how many in the county do we have. Do you have any idea, Mr. Bobby?
10 at least.
Oh, yeah, at least.
10 between here and there.
You guys want to fix that? I think the number's more like about 18, but I don't want to be quoted on that. Dollar General's been a great partner. We all use Dollar General. I'm also very familiar with this intersection, travel it quite often, and with the outpouring of the citizens from the community there who seem to have the needs their needs are all met, and the dangers that it could incur for sure, because it's a very bad intersection, poor design. Like I said, we're always out for economic growth, but I think that there's other locations in the county that could really serve our citizens better, Mr. Howard. And I appreciate what you do and how y'all have worked with us in the past. But I'm gonna have to. I'll wait for any more discussion and then see if anybody's got anything.
I'm good. I have to agree with Mark. I mean, I worked at the road department probably 6 years ago. I quit, and that was the road that me and Carlin hated to go to the most because of the traffic back then. And this is 6 years further up, so I'm sure it's a lot worse now. So I'm going to have to go with Mark on this one. We appreciate what Dollar General's done in our county, but
yeah, and want them to continue to. I just feel like that this location is not conducive to what the needs are, and so Therefore, if there's no more discussion, we'll be open for a motion.
Yeah, we'll have a motion. No, sir, you'd be out of order, sir. I'm sorry. Do we have a motion?
I'd make the motion that we go with the Planning Commission's recommendation to deny the request for the rezone and for the Dollar General at that particular location.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny the request from Commissioner Askew. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Stoltz to deny this request. Any further discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor of denying the request, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this request is denied unanimously. Okay. All right, now we're going to go to our statistic report here tonight. I'll just cover this briefly. I know it's getting late.
Excuse me.
We put this out each and every month, and it shows historical data as well, but our intake of dogs at the shelter is 102, 63 cats. Code compliance, it was 1,281 inspections for the month. 27 citations were wrote for violations of property maintenance. They were successful in closing out 22 cases. 22 residents were able to be in compliance, which was fantastic. Our fire department continues to do an outstanding job of installing smoke alarms. So if there's folks out there that still don't have modern, up-to-date smoke alarms in their home, contact our fire department and they'll come out and install those for you for free. Provide that equipment that you need and make sure you have the proper number. We would rather come out for that type of call than to come out with your house on fire and no smoke alarms. Litter trash pickup, the team continues to do a phenomenal job, 11,180 pounds. Housing construction still strong in Walker County with 11 additional permits pulled in June for single-family home construction, and that's in the unincorporated area, so that doesn't count the growth and building that's going on in our cities, but that gets us 72 for the year. We still had a strong social media. I will point out there, a newsletter subscription added 82. So if you're not a part of our monthly e-newsletter, you can go to our website. A box will pop up. You can enter in your name and email address, and it will sign you up for that monthly e-news. It's about a 5-minute read, and it is phenomenal information of things that's going on in Walker County. There's other data on there, but just due to the sake of time, I'm not going to read all of that at this time. At this time, we'll move forward for our commissioner comments. So, District 1, Mr. Blakemore, you have anything you'd like to add to the meeting tonight?
I just appreciate everybody coming out and getting involved in your government. We like to hear your feedback, and if I can ever be assistance to anybody, feel free to reach out, call, text, or email. Thank you.
I'd piggyback off of Mr. Blakemore. It's having the participation in, people getting involved helps us to make better decisions. Thank all of you, whether it goes your way or not. Like I said, it's a hard job that we've got to do up here, but we try to do what's fair and what's best for everybody involved, not just one. So thank y'all. And like Robert said, reach out if you've got suggestions, ideas, or gripes. Feel free to holler.
Mr. Hart.
Yeah, it's just one or two updates. So the landfill has been closed since yesterday yesterday at noon. Payne and them did some work out there. Actually did it in-house. They repaired the floor. That will be open back up on Monday. So a big shout out to those guys. I was out there the last couple of days looking at that with them and helping with them with that. So they've done a great job with that. Not this Friday, but next Friday, in the City of Lafayette downtown, they're closing the square for movie night. So it's kind of like the Blue Sky Drive-In. If you're old enough to remember that, Sheriff Wilson, I know you are. Robert, you might have got arrested over there. But yeah, it's downtown on the square. It's Friday, the 30th of July. So if you got a family, get out to that. That's going to be a great family event. And Robert's going to talk about COVID.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I want to thank everyone for coming. A great turnout, and thank you for being involved in your county and showing an interest in your county. And Brian is correct. I want to talk about COVID a little bit. Unfortunately, as I'm sure you've seen in the news headlines, COVID has been spiking back up. Seeing some different variants. In our county right now, about 25% of our populace has been vaccinated. Commissioner Whitfield and myself, we were in a meeting Tuesday, and all of us very concerned about those low vaccination numbers, and also concerned about new cases, hospitalizations. So I would encourage everyone who has not been vaccinated, get vaccinated. Look at the hard data. Don't look at the misinformation, and there's a lot of it out there. I took the vaccine. I had absolutely no problems. My 96-year-old mother took the vaccine, had absolutely no problems. So I would encourage everyone, look at that vaccine, read some hard data, and consider getting that, because I'm telling you, this variant is making people extremely sick. A lot of folks are going to die from this, and here in Walker County, we want to kick this COVID. So everybody do your part and get those vaccines. Thank y'all very much.
Appreciate the commissioner's comments, and I'll be sure and go tonight and Google. You said Blue Sky Movies.
Blue Sky Drive. Mark Ashley was arrested.
I probably was.
That was before my time, but I will go Google and look that up, see what that's all about. But I did have one thing. We did amend our agenda. There is one more action item that's very, very important tonight that we want to talk about and get the board to take action on. From the Governor Kemp's office, he's announced Georgia Jobs and Infrastructure Committee. And in essence, this Job and Infrastructure Committee will receive applications beginning August the 1st. And there's a website that the applications will be put on, and the close of accepting those applications will be August the 31st. So it's just a 31-day window of opportunity for grants that are, and the target date to announce the awards of those grants is October the 18th. So this thing's moving very, very fast. And what this is federal funding that the governor's office has received as a result of the American Rescue Plan. And so the three areas that the governor is wanting to invest these dollars into Georgia communities is in an economic impact. He has put a committee together to look at the applications for that. One that's very, very important to our community as well, of high need, is broadband infrastructure. The third one, which is also another big one for our community, is improvement to water and sewer infrastructure. So this is a fast-moving train that this is doing. There is, I believe, a couple of $1 billion.
Actually, 4.8 billion over between now and I think 2024.
Okay.
Somewhere in that area.
So it's approaching $5 billion, and we want to get our seven-figure number out of this as well. And so Commissioner Askew and also with our Economic Development, Robert Wardlaw, had a very, very good, super informative meeting today. And I know we've amended the agenda tonight for this, and we typically don't like to ever have to amend the agenda unless it's something of very urgency. And when we're talking about the ability to go after millions of dollars to help us in these core areas, that the governor is trying to get to work very, very quickly to get into the marketplace, and the people that can apply is city and county governments. So we've got as good a shot as anybody, and they're probably going to try to help get that out there. But we've had come to us a consulting company with Butler Avenue Partners, LLC. They have a lot of expertise in this. They know how to get the information, the data collected, and do all this very, very quickly so we can get our application in. And they basically will work with us in a consulting capacity, but really take their expertise and knowledge and hold our hand through this process to make sure we get some of these funds if all possible. So this is this initial commitment is just for 3 months. It's $4,000 per month for 3 months that we would be investing. I don't look at it as that we're spending on this one. This is not a spend. This is an investment to get several $1 million return on this $12,000 is what we're working for. It's very simple, short, 2 2.5-page agreement, very, very straightforward. This would go into effect August the 1st. We had a good meeting with them today, went over some of our shovel-ready projects that we've got in the hopper, so that's another positive thing. So we feel really, really good about this. And I didn't know, Commissioner, ask you if you had any additional comments that you want to give to this as well.
You know, you've covered it very well, Chair. We had a great, like I said, a great information sharing meeting, and this particular group is, you know, they've got a lot of expertise in this, a lot of good contacts. I think they can, you know, here we are in budget, and I know you, Mr. Hart, and several are spending a lot of time working with the department heads on this budget. We don't have time to dilly-dally with this, and so I'm a huge supporter of going ahead and working with these folks and letting them help us navigate and get in for some infrastructure repairs and things that would just be additional funding to us, and which would end up being lessening the burden on us taxpayers and maybe improving some of the stuff, like you said, that we need.
Yeah, and also too, was what we were told today, because they've had some additional information they had received, that this most likely, from what they're hearing, is going to be 100% funded money. So there's not probably, most likely will not even be a match to any awards that are giving out on this to hit these three categories. So any further questions, concerns, comments from the board?
No, sir.
Okay, at this time we'll move for a motion to approve the consulting service agreement for $4,000 a month for 3 months, each month with Butler Avenue Partners, LLC, made into agreement with Walker County. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Blakemore. Do I hear a second?
A second.
I have a second by Commissioner Askew. Any further discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, pass unanimous vote. Thank you, gentlemen, for this. I believe this will reap benefits for our community.
I do too.
Okay, glad we got that. About missed that one. Okay. I don't know if we have any needs for an executive session tonight. If not, do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Commissioner Stoltz. Do I hear a second?
Yes, sir.
All right, I got a second. Commissioner Hart.
I was yawning.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn. Thank you all very much.
Good job, guys.
Very good work.